Today I'm going to show you how to remove and install a Shimano Hollowtech II Crankset. The tools that you're going to need are a rag, a hammer, a 5mm Allen key, Shimano Hollowtech tool and some grease. First off, you want to start by shifting into the inner ring. Then you want to proceed by undoing the pinch bolts on the non-driveside crank arm. The next step is to undo the crank bolt with the Shimano Hollowtech tool. Next you want to undo the safety cap and pull the crank off the axle. After this, you want to gently tap through on the axle. Sometimes it can be a bit seized, the axle in the bottom bracket, so it does require a bit of force sometimes, but just be careful not to damage any threads. The next step is to derail the chain onto the bottom bracket, allowing you to pull the crankset through the bottom bracket shell. Next is good just to give everything a wipe down of the old grease and dirt which is accumulated. This will just keep things running nice and smoothly. So that's what I'm doing there, just taking all the grease and gunk off the bottom bracket area. It's a good opportunity to clean the frame in that area as well. Next you want to sort of degrease and clean up the actual axle. At this point you also want to clean and degrease the non-driveside crank where it comes into contact with the bottom bracket bearings. You also want to re-grease all the parts that you've degreased, so putting fresh grease in the bottom bracket is important and basically stops water getting in and keeps everything running smoothly. What you also want to do is re-grease the axle, paying special attention to the threads on the non-drive side. You want to be putting more grease on this side where I'm greasing now than actually near the chain rings. So when you put it in the bottom bracket, a lot of the grease tends to get pushed towards the chain rings anyway, as you might see in a minute. So giving it a firm push, you slot it all the way in until the inner chain ring is just over the drive side bottom bracket cup. You can then proceed to put the chain back on the smaller ring there. Next, what we're going to move on to is the non-drive side crank, putting that back on. Make sure it's in the opposite position to the drive side crank. There is a bigger groove to make sure you do this. Next you want to re-grease the crank bolt, the threads of the crank bolt which come into contact with the threads of the axle. So I'm doing that there, getting as even spread as you can. When you put the crank bolt into the axle, make sure that the safety catch is undone. So then you want to grab your Shimano Hollowtech tool. Basically you want to do this up finger tight as far as you can go. Then the important thing is to back it off a little bit after, and then you nip it back up. This basically makes sure there's not too much pressure on the bearings. After you've tightened the crank bolt, you want to push the safety catch down until you hear a little click, and then tighten up the crank pinch bolts.